What is your profession? This is Sparta!
Okay, let's try this again with my mic on, this time not muted. So we're back at it with another Spartan Arena. Of course, as always, do me a favor, hit the like, share, and subscribe. It will be very musical. So as always, we always gonna have to start with our thing.
This is Sparta!
Spartans have to live for a while. But let's talk about music for a minute. Before I even get into the music, I have one very special guest tonight. Let's say he's very educated with music. So let's get his in him here immediately. So let's get him up here. So, David, what's going on, my man? How are you tonight?
Hey, how's things going?
Pretty good, pretty good. So, obviously, the show is called tonight. We're talking about evolution of music. Um, for a little feedback for our audience that doesn't know you, you have a music degree, right?
I do not, but I've been involved with music my whole life.
Okay.
I did do music classes in college, but did not pursue the degree fully. I still am involved with teaching high school marching bands and
Nice.
judging high school marching band competitions and indoor percussion and the whole bit that I've been doing that my whole life. I started drumming when I was about 5
Mm-hmm.
and marched in my first drum corps when I was 7 and have taught and judged and played in a whole bunch and was always involved with that. Now I'm also playing with a small trio at some clubs and having a good time doing that and looking forward to expanding that part of the career.
Oh, nice, nice, nice. So, when you hear the word the evolution of music, what comes to your head? Mind, excuse me.
Oh, just basically, from the classical origins
Mm-hmm.
and as it went through, and now it's evolved into something that uh, was just unforeseen as easy as, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. It's just evolving incredibly, and I'm curious to see where AI is going to take this whole journey for us too. But yeah, even my own standpoint, what I write, the music that I write, I started back in the 80s, sometime the early 80s. And in 95, 96, the evolution of the computer software that allowed us to put it into that was just remarkable. And it's just developed incredibly over time. So unfortunately, I didn't listen to mom and become a piano player. So when I tried to play stuff, even in college, that I would write for theory classes and stuff, it was rather difficult.
Hmm.
And now you're able to put it into a computer and just have it play back immediately, and it's a wonderful tool.
Well, I don't have music sound effects, but I'll give you what I got so far. I got one, and wait. All right, that's the
Sorry.
best I got for you. So, if I
That's
knew
cool.
you're a musician, a pianist, I would have had some piano sound effects ready to rock and roll here. But sorry, like I dropped the ball there. Oops.
That's all
Um,
right. As I said, I didn't play piano. I wish I did. My biggest regret.
really, why was that your biggest regret?
I just think that anybody getting into music, and I teach a lot of percussionists and drummers. Um, I always tell them, please learn piano first. Everything gets based off of that. And
Really?
piano is one of those things that, at least in my opinion, yeah, that you don't have to be part of a group. You could be if you want, but
Hmm.
you could be a solo piano player at a club, at a bar. During college, I could have made a ton of money if I was the piano player with different groups that I did play with, or again, just sitting at a bar and put a jar out and make a couple bucks that way. But when it comes to composition, everything kind of drives back to that element, and I just think that that's something everybody should learn.
Well, I would say I'm more a heavy metal guy. So
Okay.
that's the music I always gravitate to. And again, please correct me if I'm wrong here. I feel like classical drifted into the metal scene at least at some point. So a lot of heavy metal has a lot of piano in it. Am I wrong?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
And again, a
go
lot
ahead.
of the theory and the concepts are built off just understanding how the mechanism works and how
Hmm.
the chordal phrasings, et cetera, all that. I mean, once you get a basis of that, then you take the basis, just like anything that you would learn the basics, and then you apply it to whatever style of music you want, or to your own style, which is even better, original stuff.
Now here's a million dollar question. I always ask this question. So as a musician, what do you have a favorite genre, or do you like a little bit of everything?
I really do like a little bit of everything. My brother was very much into jazz music, so I was raised with that. My dad was into country
Hmm.
and polkas and square dances. He used to play drums for all that. Then I was involved, like I said, with the marching, but when I was in college, I got involved with a little more classical stuff with the symphonic wind ensemble and percussion ensembles. And after that, it's just everything. And the same thing, I tell my students all the time, if you get a chance to play anything, just go play it. In a church, like I said, a polka band, a rock band, whatever, go because it's just going to open up your whole life to all kinds of things that are out there. And there's no one right way to do it. Make it your own and make it your best you could.
So what instrument do you play so far? I know you said drums. Is there anything else, or that's it?
Unfortunately, that was it. Like I said, I should have done piano. Kick myself all the time on that one.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, pretty much just the drums. And then again, when I'm writing for percussion in marching bands, that involves the melodic percussion, which is the marimbas, the vibraphone, the timpani, chimes, all that stuff. So luckily, I know enough to write that pretty well too.
Okay, I have now. I'm gonna throw a big one on you. A million dollar question. Let's see if you're familiar with this instrument. I apologize, I can't pronounce that word. Have you ever heard of a bouzouki?
Yes. Um,
What is a bouzouki?
I have, and I heard that on Monty Python actually, one of their skits, but I'm trying to remember what that is. Is that an Indian instrument or
Greek.
Greek? Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So we have another show. I do three shows on the channel. I go the Spartan Arena, the Hangout, and Gray Area. On the Gray Area, we is me and my buddy Paul used to be on later on tonight with us, and we go between different cultures. So we were last
Okay.
week. We were talking about music. That's why I want to follow up to this week. Today with it. And the bouzouki came up because he goes, "What the hell's a bouzouki?" I'm like, "Oh, here we go." So because a lot of people are so used to the American music,
Mhm.
they don't branch out to different cultures or different countries and listen to different kinds. Except Spanish, you might hear because Spanish is a big language around here in America. But except that, did you hear anything besides Spanish in English?
Hmm.
Think about it.
to
Do you
think
hear
on
any
that
other
one. Yeah.
languages around?
Languages around me, Indian, a lot of
Okay.
Indian. The company I work with is very international, so we have
Hmm.
that. We have Japanese. Um, I would say those are the biggies, and then the Spanish. We part of our team is actually in Mexico,
Okay.
so yeah, we deal with that a lot.
Well, I'll have to say, I'm a big anime fan, and I do listen to the soundtracks once in a while, like Gundam. So the Japanese, I do listen to them, but I have no fucking idea what they're saying.
Yes.
But the some of their songs are freaking has a nice beat to it. And like, yeah, I can go work out with this. So that's why I like it so much.
Um,
So go ahead. You go say. Go ahead.
I was going to say one of the things recently that my girlfriend is not a musician, but
Hmm.
she wanted to get involved and learn some stuff. And in Scranton, there's actually a steel drum organization over at Steamtown Mall called the Steamtown, or I'm sorry, I should know this. Dropping the ball here. But, yeah, exactly, exactly. But anywho, they have a steel drum organization over there run by Frank Tarquato, who used to be
Hmm.
the band director at North Pocono for a while, and he's retired now, and he started up this organization. He's helping out veterans with it, and it's open to the public. So if anybody's interested in doing some steel drum, just stop over. It's on the second floor of the Steamtown Mall. And but anyhow, as I was diverting to originally, my girlfriend, I've been getting her involved in it, and she's really been enjoying learning, music and how we're going about with that. And again, it's opened up your eyes to and ears to different types of music. Besides that, as we were developing together, her and I, we would be listening to songs in the car, and it was interesting to me because as you mentioned about the words in the anime, uh, in regular typical rock songs, I really don't listen to the words a lot. I listen to the music, and like you said, hey, this is a great song, and then you listen to the words, you're like, oh yeah, there's a story here too. And she's more of listening to the words, and she'll tell me what they're saying, and I'll be like, oh, is that what it is? I didn't even notice.
Hmm.
It's interesting how people listen to music differently.
See, it's funny you say that because the story behind it. The reason I want to say that is country music is a story behind the song. If you
Hmm.
really listen to lyrics, it's one of my favorite songs called "The Call." It's pretty much basic about this guy almost committed suicide, but his best friend literally just called him, "Hey, what you doing, bro? Come hang out with us," and saved his life. So, if you listen to the lyrics very well, at least the country ones, I know for a fact, they have a deep, deep meaning behind it.
Hmm. Yeah, the country and like I said, stuff from like the 80s, 90s.
Mm-hmm.
You know, again, there's so many times that there was a comedian on not too long ago, and he was talking about how we mishear lyrics, and he threw out some of some jokes about it. You're thinking that they're saying this, and then when you look at the lyrics, like they're really not saying that. And it's like, oh, okay. So, but again, it was just interesting to me to see how different people listen to music and what they're really keying in on and picking up on. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the other things that we've gotten involved in, my girlfriend and myself, is ballroom dancing and listening to where the beats are and how they fall. And as a drummer, I'm thinking this, and as a dancer, how they interpret it, how different that is. And it's almost well, it is a challenge at times just to you figure out the counts. The dance people are looking at you like, well, obviously it's counted this way, and as a drummer, you're counting it some other way, and it's like, okay, I gotta make these two things work together. So. But it's great, and that's what I said. Just everybody get out there and try everything because it's interesting how it all fits together when it does. Excuse me.
So the biggest question I got for you now, because after what
Mm,
you said, is I have a couple questions for you actually, but this is the biggest one I think from the list. As number one is how the role of music has evolved over the years. How do you think it has evolved from from back in the day when the first sound between rocks and everything to the modern era?
mm. Good question. Well, I think obviously it's more out there involved in a plethora of ways. You think of just listening to the news starting, you listen to a tune and you hear it and you're like, it's the news is coming up. Or if you're for me, one of the other things I wish that I had gotten involved in was being a composer for like movies or TV shows, and how much that just makes or breaks the story a lot of time. If you think of something like Jaws, for instance, they had horrible technical problems with the shark. That was going to be the emphasis of the show, and it just didn't work. And then John Williams was able to come up with that awesome theme,
Hmm.
and you just hear that, and you don't even have to see anything. You know something's coming, and something's bad, and something's ominous. And you have him, and another great one recently is like Hans Zimmer with Gladiator and Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, that's a
If
good one.
you ever want to see how much music plays with modern forms of art, watch the TV and turn the sound off, or watch a movie and turn the sound off, and see how are you affected versus when that music is on, how different that is.
You know, it's
So,
funny you say that because now you're forgetting one major thing. I don't know if you're into this, but video games have a lot of music in it too.
oh yes, yes.
Like my favorite one, and here's another one.
Hey, listen!
Like from there's only two classic, Nintendo and Zelda. If you guys didn't recognize it, but music will make and break the game. If like people don't realize when you have the boss back, it comes in, and you're getting now your adrenaline is kicking, your heart is pounding. Like, why is my heart pounding? It's because the music is making it the feeling intense 10 times more. Or you disagree?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, without that's a whole other sense that's not getting involved in there
Mm-hmm.
and effective, whether it be a happy effect, a sad effect, whatever you're after. But music definitely drives that.
Yeah. So we got some comments. Let's read them out really fast. So we got Mariana saying to us, okay, good evening, gentlemen. Mariana, welcome. And we got Cash in the house, like always. They're supporting us. Yo, what's up, guys? And Cash has a comment about music. He says, there's some music instruments around the world are not familiar or not known in this country. I agree with that. What do you think, David? Because
Oh,
maybe.
absolutely. And that's what a lot of times, if you have the opportunities, universities a lot of times pull in different countries, types of music, different cultures. Again, expose yourself to it. It's really interesting to see how people interpret and, make the music come alive in their own cultures. And it's always something new to learn.
You know what's funny you said because the next question goes really well with this you just said. So my next question was going to be, so how do you feel music influence culture, social media, and history?
Wow. Okay. Um,
I'm throwing big ones at you today. You don't get ready.
yeah, yeah.
I warn you when you come in the show, you're going to be in a hot seat.
Well, influenced history. I mean, you just think of, when rock and roll music first started coming out, in the 50s, 60s,
Mm,
how controversial it was, and even now when, possibly some bad things happen and people are like, oh, it was because of this song said to do a bad thing, and that caused me to think about it, which led to the bad thing. So is the music kind of driving that. So that's bad examples. But in the good examples too, you think of like the Olympics. You hear that music and it's the Olympics, and it's like, okay, we got to be proud, stand up taller. The national anthem, whether you're for or against, however you react to that. But it's always been a part of history, and it's going to keep evolving, more and more. And like I said, with the evolution of AI, it's just going to it's already become incredible. Now it's even going to get that extra push.
and it's funny you said about AI because AI is in even in the YouTube streets right now. Like so, as a YouTuber myself, I gotta be careful what button I hit and what music I play because you can copyright strike just like that.
Oh
It can take
yes.
the whole stream down, and that's the hard part of doing all this stuff. Sometimes, even yourself, like, don't you have to watch what kind of what you play sometimes?
Oh, absolutely. And you have to make sure that, if you're playing in a club, the club is paying the proper rights for that. And the same thing if you're writing and composing music or arranging music that's,
Hmm.
already been done. There are always fees with that involved, as the artist should get paid. I mean, that's justifiable. It is an extra expense, but you have to take that into account as you're going with it.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing when people forget about it sometimes. It's like these
Hmm.
artists literally, break the balls to actually get where they are. It wasn't like, okay, I'm famous tomorrow. Ying. It took
Yeah.
it takes years and years to get just recognized. Or am I wrong?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And again, it's not like, the good old days of last century in the 80s and 70s where you'd sell records. Now everything's all over the computer. You could kind of stream it for anywhere if you look hard enough, probably. And
Yeah, I personally stream all my music from Google Music, and I have not paid for a CD in years because I got everything right at my fingertips. I pay the
hmm
membership. I think it's
hmm
like $2 a month or some shit like that. I don't even remember to be honest. That's how low it is.
hmm
But I haven't bought a CD. I don't know how many years because I got everything again online through
Right.
some type of streaming device.
Yeah, much more convenient
Mm-hmm.
nowadays. And I was just going through, had a garage sale a couple of years ago, and trying to get rid of records and tapes and CDs. And I mean, you can't even give them away, which is a shame because back in the day they were so golden, and you had to keep such care of them. But now it's just such more convenient, and the quality of sound is so much better right now.
It's funny. I remember when you the CDs when you used to we used to burn them all the time. Download them from online and
Mm,
burn them and like have all your favorite songs on one CD, like on a CDW or CDRW, and now that's absolute technology. You don't even use that shit anymore. Or am I wrong?
Right. Yeah, that's true. There are people that do like that, and there's some, people who really like the records and LPs yet. So hats off to them that are able to maintain that, and
Hmm.
again take care of the media itself.
Yeah. So let me just welcome Sean onto the panel. What's going on, brother?
What's going on? How are you doing today?
Good, 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 good. So you guys called right in the middle talking about old school CDWs burning on music. You're that older. You remember that probably, right, David? I mean,
Oh, I
Sean.
do, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, Sean, I know you were in the music business for a while, right?
Yes, that's actually why I put that. I looked at that right there because you was talking about burning CDs. So yes, that is my era.
So you
And
want to give us
yes,
a little background on your music business thing, if
well,
you don't
yeah, I
mind?
started out as an artist. I was signed. I was one of the first rap groups signed to a major label, which was Geffen Records, back in 1987, 1988. I left the industry, came back in the industry as to learn the business, and I was an executive at several labels, including Interscope, A&M, EMI, and also did independent consultation and work for several other labels. So that's the extent of. I was in the group. 783 is the name of the group that I was in, and we pretty much launched a lot of folks. Like we launched the whole Soul Assassin Cypress movement through our group. Muggs was our DJ, and my brother taught B-Real how to write songs, and there you have my history.
Nice, 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 nice. So the question I left with David, I want to answer you the same thing. How do you feel music has impacted the social media history, um, and so let me read the whole influence the culture, social media, and history. You're muted. You're muted.
Oh, music has influenced everything. That's just some components that it has influenced. Now, social media, on the opposite end, has influenced music. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't say it that way, but it probably should be said that way. That social media has impacted music in the same way that you said CDRs were impacting, and the different sites that happened that started with the social media. If you can remind me, I know y'all probably was just talking about it, but the people who started
Snapper, Napster. I mean,
Napster.
Napster
Uh,
started, then it was LimeWire after. Oh no, it was Napster. Kazaa was it one of them, and then it was
Oh
LimeWire
yeah.
after that.
hmm
yeah, and they impacted the music industry in the manner, in the same way that I feel social media has impacted the music industry. It redefined it. It lessened the value somewhat of it, and um, we allowed it. So
Dave, you want anything to add to that before we move on to the next question?
No, no, that nailed it pretty good.
Sweet. Okay. Okay. Emotions. Let's talk about that for a second. How does music involve emotions and mental health? And because mental health is a big thing right now, lately. If you really think about it, after COVID, A lot of people have dealing with a lot of shit that have been brought up. I don't really think COVID was a reason. I feel is we're more okay to talk about it more now. So, um, who wants to go first?
Can you clarify that question a little differently? Or
So, um, trying to put it the best way. How does music affect our emotions and mental health, and why does it strong impact us on a daily basis? Is that a little better?
okay, I get. I think I know where you're trying to go with it, and my answer to that would be, music has always been about emotions. It has stirred up the emotion. It has been escapism for
Mm.
us for a long time. It helps us escape reality and get into different emotions and different feelings that we might be burying, or we might be dismissing. And music is a portal to help open that up, and always has been. And more recently, because we're exposed to so much more, we have different types of music, and all of those emotions and feelings. Music was based on feeling. Music creates feeling. Any movie, if you really think about it, it's what drives the scene is the music or the sounds. I also was a what do you call that? A music supervisor for a television show, and I learned that very clearly. I didn't realize how much music and sound move scenes. So you can look at a scene, and it absent of music, or it absent of sounds, which is also considered music. Let's say an eerie sound. Kill, kill, kill. That's kind of like a sound that creates a feeling. So it always has been that, and I don't think it will ever change. Now the words adds to that, but the music, if you just scale it down to musical compositions, it always has a feeling to it, and those feelings are addictive, and that's what we gravitate towards when we like or dislike music, in my opinion.
Right, and to follow up with what you said is kind of it goes in two directions. So if I'm feeling blue, there's times where I just want to listen to sad, bluesy soul music, that kind of thing. Or if you're listening to a song, just like you said, within a movie context, especially, it's trying to make you feel a certain thing, and it if it impacts you positively or negatively, it could drive you versus you listening and trying to drive the music. So it goes back and forth both ways.
I know we talked about it a little. Me and David talked about it a little earlier. Even video games, Sean, has a big impact. Like, for example, you hear this stuff and you get you very excited or very sad. Like, man, I fucking died again. God damn it!
But,
And go
but
ahead.
what's about that, I'm sorry to cut you off. That's exactly what we're speaking about. That is music. It's just an instrument that was digital. That's why I created that sound. But if you think about the melody, that's what it was. That was uh, uh, a, a musical pattern, and so, or I'm sorry, a musical melody. So it was just used with a instrument that we haven't heard, or a digital component that made the actual sound. But if you play that on a piano, if you play that with a guitar, it's still the same melody.
Hmm. Before I get to my next question, I want to add a question I didn't have on here because I know David mentioned it earlier, and I kind of want to get you both of yours deep dive into this AI. I know David mentioned a little bit of AI earlier, but let's get into it a little bit. You know, David thinks the AI is going to involve the music even more. David, you want to go first and we'll dive really into it a little bit?
Sure. The one of the first things that I was exposed to in AI was like the chat GPT stuff. And I was just amazed. Like I threw together a story of maybe a paragraph, threw a couple names in and said, write me country lyrics based on this story. And it just spit it out in seconds. And to think of what that that used to take previously, and how you'd have, your thesaurus out, and you're going through every kind of thing trying to find the right words in there. And for this just to spit that out, even if it's just a starting point, um, from a lyric standpoint, that's amazing. And then I'm sure that that's also available now in different types of AI software for the music itself to compose it like a certain composer and then put the words in. And I mean, it just spits stuff out. It's really incredible. Unfortunately, it's a little bit scary too because who knows where it's going, but and how it's going to be used. And what a shame that maybe eventually that part of the art form will be, it's going to transition into something like that and be very different than what I think we've seen in the
Mm.
last bunch of years, and especially even right now.
John, you're up. What are you thinking?
I haven't really explored AI. I am familiar with it, but as a creative, it's like you said, it's compelling, but yet scary. Compelling,
Yeah,
the idea of what it can create, but scary because it's just a very, I grew up in hip hop, and biting or using somebody else's lyrics was taboo. And so this is that to the hundredth power.
yeah, it's not just copying and pasting somebody else's lyrics, but still, it's not the same as sitting down and cranking through word by word.
Right. And it's duplicating, emulating different people's music and or words in rhyme patterns, and it's doing it so quickly and easily that it's, like I said, it's almost scary because what happens is it's becoming the microwave of music.
Hmm.
Now we didn't have it already. Now we have it. We have, like, how they got an air fryer and a microwave, and the microwave might cook it faster than the air fryer. The air fryer might cook it a bit more thoroughly than the microwave, but neither one of them do what the oven does.
Hmm.
That's kind of where I'm feeling like technology is taking us creatively. It's you have the microwave and then you have the air fryer, which they both can be convenient, but neither one of them give the substance and or the nutrients that the food would provide with an oven. And so you being a chef is the reason why I'm using that example. But you probably can understand what I'm referring to, and that's what's scary about it because you lose a lot of the quality that it's supposed to have when you start using some of this technology that offers you a quick meal, a fulfilling meal, but maybe not the same nutrients. So I feel like in music, we will get some things that are good, but we might lose the substance that really drove and drives the music.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
I think it's a perfect analogy because we don't know where this AI thing is going still, and if we add into music factor, it could go for left, right, up, down, side. Wait, we don't know. So is it? I think the old school musicians sitting down with a piece of paper and pen and writing things down, it might be a dying art. Can we agree on that at least?
No,
You don't think so?
because
Please.
I was just listening to some.
Yes.
I was just listening to some MCs yesterday, for example. And as an MC and as a songwriter, whether you write it down on a piece of paper or you memorize it because you have a good memory, it's still something that is preconceived and put together strategically, usually.
Hmm.
And that's something that they don't always factor in, but everybody who's been a writer or a songwriter, whether you use your memory as your scratch pad or whether you use a piece of paper as your scratch pad, you're still using a scratch pad and you're putting together those scratches into a unique compilation, and that then uh, breeds the music that we're talking about. And so that's not a dying art; it's just a new method of ways to express the art.
Yeah, I would agree with that, definitely. And like I said, but I'm sure there's going to be people that are going to take it to the extreme, as everybody does with new tools and new opportunities that are available using that. But yeah, it's still got to come from the heart, still got to come from the head at some point.
Now, do you guys feel like different genres impacted different?
Dave, I was gonna let you go first. I'll go after you.
What impacted what differently?
Uh, trying to think of how best way to put this question. Our emotions. Let's use that for example, because we're talking about that already.
Oh, most definitely. I went to a concert recently up in New York, and again, it was a very driving, in your face kind of experience, and it was great, knowing that going in, and that's what you want. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's other times where you just want to go to a piano bar and hang out and have a conversation, have a glass of wine, and enjoy the moment, and that mood is created by that. So it depends what kind of environment you're in and what you're after, which is going to drive that kind of emotion musically.
Sean, what do you think?
I agree wholeheartedly. Uh, Smooth, but I don't get upset. Keep a hold in the speaker, pull the plug, then I jet. Welcome to the jungle. We own it. It's those are both driving in different temperaments, and
Yes.
overlapping genres that have a force. So now you have people in hip hop who might go out to have a rock cadence, and you have people in rock that might have a smoothed out jazz or hip hop cadence. So yes, they are overlapping and they are exchanging and marrying one another, and it's becoming great for the creativity and the growth of music and the ability of music, if you ask my opinion.
Okay. Um, I like where it's going. So I'm gonna throw a twist on this now, so a little bit. So we talked about emotions. We talked about AI, but we haven't talked about the digital age, going from MP3 players to live streams. Uh, how to music gets to me as the audience, because I'm not a musician. I'm a martial artist at the end of the day and a chef. So you guys as musicians, you trying to get the music to me. Do you think the new way to get music has changed dramatically, or is still the same but is a little different?
It's definitely changed dramatically. Now you could, it takes nothing to release a new tune and get it out to, possibly millions of people at once quickly. Um, is that better or worse? It's better from the standpoint that it's getting out there. But as we alluded to earlier, if you're trying to make a living at this, I think it was probably easier to get the funds available to you when you're selling solid, physical records versus putting stuff online. I don't have tons of experience with that, but that's just the impression that I have.
Okay.
Sean,
I feel what you just said is relevant. It definitely has changed dramatically. But what I say the change is the different platforms that you can actually utilize to receive me. And to your point, Dave, it has advantages and disadvantages depending on who's looking at it and what you're looking at it from which standpoint. The advantage for an artist is that it puts more value and more control into the artist's hand. Uh, the disadvantage is that some of the structure that was created through the labels and the ability for them to market and promote and lay things out is absent. So therefore, the money stream is also goes astray, and they dictate it in a different way through owning the streaming companies, and now they can only give an artist through the streaming a certain amount or unfair amount of the revenue that they used to receive, and they can dictate it. So they wound up learning a new way to be able to control it through the streaming. That is a disadvantage to the artist. But the artists being able to have different platforms to expose their music has been to their advantage if they know how to use it, because they can directly go to merch. They can directly go to where people can buy music from them directly digitally. They can go and do shows and do things of that nature. And that I think is to advantage if you understand the business. But when music became a business, it compromised the integrity of the art.
Mm, well said.
so I have one example here. I follow this guy on YouTube called Pelecon. I can't pronounce his goddamn name. So the reason I'm bringing him up, he does a lot of cover arts, but he does his own music too. But he has become, I don't want to say famous, but very respected musician. So he can sing in several different languages. He makes his own. He can sing into Japanese, Asian, and some other languages. His voice is incredible. First of all, I would have played it, but I don't want to get copyright strike. That's why I'm not doing it. But he started and got discovered from YouTube. So that is possible to do that way too.
Yeah, and that's the advantage because you now have different platforms to where you can expose music through, and it doesn't have strict genre restrictions such as pop radio or
Hmm.
hip hop or rock or hard rock or and those restrictions limited your ability to be able to get the exposure that sometimes you needed. Whereas, like you say, YouTube and social media allows you the opportunity to be able to have it exposed, and though that exposure is really why you're uh, interested is because you was exposed to it, and now that you're exposed to it, you're a fan of it. Now that you're a fan of it, you're supportive of it, and where and how that support reaches the artist is what we're discussing now.
David, go
Yes.
ahead. Your time.
Yeah, I mean, everything that you're mentioning is from what I see from the outside looking in. Again, I'm not totally involved in that aspect of the music, but from what I understand, I think you nailed it again.
See, I have discovered a lot of people, new artists, new style of music through YouTube. And I
Hmm.
discovered maybe I didn't discover an artist or a song. Like, but I discovered like a bunch of different. I'm like, wow, this is actually goddamn fucking good. You're surprised how good it is. You actually just start listening to it, and it's like it kind of shocks you in a way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and again, the way with that you're able to record things nowadays, you don't need a gigantic studio to make a pretty decent recording. Of course, the bigger artists do, and that's cool. But you could put it out and, like you said, potentially get recognized out there. But there's a lot of people doing that.
So we're talking about recognize. Like, that's it's interesting you said that because my next question goes is who in each other's and everybody's personal opinion is the most influenced musician of all times, and what made them so impacted in music?
Wow, that's a
I'm
unfair
throwing fire. Go ahead. I'm throwing
Yes.
fireballs at you guys.
that's that's an unfair and a loaded question
Mhm.
because that's
Sean, admit it. I
subjective.
got you. I got you. I got you good
Well,
without
no,
question.
no, what it is because it's subjected to your preferences.
Mhm.
Exactly. That's why I said your
So
personal opinion. I said.
right, but my personal opinion overlaps with my business opinion. So
Give me
one
both.
might say Michael Jackson. I would think arguably might be the most notable uh, artist in music who I think is unmatched um, in any capacity, whether it be fame, whether it be body of work, whether it be performance ability. There's a lot of things that you can argue about him, but he's probably the most recognizable, more so than any other artist that I can think of, including the Beatles, including Led Zeppelin, including Tupac, including Prince, even. Now Prince, arguably, this is my era, might be a different type of talent, and some might say a better talent in different ways. But could you argue his impact is more significant than Michael's? Probably not. But if you're talking about the business, you probably can. You have that argument. Michael did a few things in the business that were phenomenal that helped artists out, but Prince did one thing that a lot of people don't recognize or give him credit for when he exposed labels.
Mhm.
When he put the symbol on his face, he exposed labels' unfair practices and gave more leverage and power to the artist by rebelling and starting a campaign against those labels, acts, and actions.
Yeah,
They-
when you're talking about influence, there's definitely not one. It's just impossible. There's so many influences that have been towards me, and not only performers but arrangers, composers. Going back a little bit, to like Aaron Copland, Leonard Bernstein. Um, Probably pronounced that wrong. I apologize. But the music and what they were doing, early on in the 20th century, and how that evolved. Composers like Billy Joel, all his stuff. I mean, is just such a wide range of stuff. His performance is great. It just goes on and on. Like you said, Michael Jackson, Prince, definitely. And even the stuff that Taylor Swift is doing now, and again, she did the same thing with the labels that Michael had gone, or I'm sorry, Prince had gone through. And when you hear about that, of course, everybody thinks that everybody's a superstar to making gajillions of dollars, and then you hear the backstories, and a lot of times people are just taken advantage of, and they start off with the best of intentions, but it doesn't always end up that way, which is pretty sad. But for those that do, hats off, they're doing remarkable stuff.
I think like you both guys are right in a way, because again, this is a very personal question. Um, like okay, I'll give you a good great example. My godfather thinks the Beatles are one of the best thing ever happened. I want a barf in a bag every time I hear him play music. Again, it's not my type of tea. I'm more like, like bada boom, bada boom, bada boom, like even like Metallica and stuff like that. I think Metallica was one of the frontiers of metal back in the day. Ozzy Osbourne, I think, is the frontier of metal back in the day. But that's a personal opinion again. Like you said, Sean, it's I don't know about the business because I'm not in the business, but I can speak for the consumer part of me is the guy who loves listening to music when he's in a bad mood or good mood or going to the gym. That song can trigger very easy, just like that. Like, oh man, was that by Two Face song the Rock made together, Face Off. Like, I love listening to Face Off as I'm driving to the gym. It gets me pumped and ready to go. Or when I'm going out and have a few drinks, or like playing shots, for example. Like, so those little things can change your day. I do not start my day out with one thing: is playing music driving to work. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm the only one. I don't give a shit. That's how my day always starts out. Go ahead, guys.
What's interesting about your answer, what's interesting about this whole thing is that if you really evaluate what we just did, we answered the question from three different perspectives.
Absolutely.
From a from a fan consumer, from a musician,
And from the black hole.
I got a phone call.
Sure.
From a musician and from a performer, an artist. And it's interesting because we're listening to it for different reasons and valuing it from different angles. So when he brought up the composers, I realized he was a musician. Me bringing up Michael Jackson, I realized I'm a performer.
Okay.
And you bringing up, you said I'm a customer. I this is what I enjoy about it. I listen to that. When I think about hip hop, I think about it from that angle, but I never really went from the broad genre outside of just hip hop because with how a DJ listens to something, how a lyricist or artist listens to something, and how a fan listens to something are three different listens.
Mhm.
So
See,
it was just described and displayed here in real time how to answer to your question, not just verbally, but also how it has impacted us.
so when I was younger, and I'm still into this actually, it's never going out of me. I always was a big fan of soundtracks, scores specifically, because I think the orchestra behind the composition, everything, the little again, apologize, the little stick that carry, they go back and forth. I think that is a talent that is so hard to master. Anything they do, from the drums to the guitar to whatever, and put all those everybody, all that big group together, play that one song, could make or break a movie. It fantasizes me all the time. Like, maybe I'm the only one who listens to scores, but I enjoy them. I gotta say that.
Uh,
And I say John Williams is one of the best ones who can do, hands down, one of the best.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's. It was funny because listen to all the more recent John Williams stuff, over the past bunch of years, and for whatever reason, there was an old Lost in Space episode from the TV series on,
Mm.
and I was listening to the song, and I'm like the theme song. I was like, right, that's pretty cool. I looked it up, and it was John Williams. He used to be called Johnny Williams back then, and so it was like one of those things that it sounded so cool. I'm like, oh, who is it? And ended up looking it up. Some of the other composers that are around nowadays is, like I said, Hans Zimmer, who did Gladiator, Pirates of the Caribbean, several other that I can't remember right now. And like on Broadway, one of my favorite Broadway composers is Frank Wildhorn, who did Jekyll and Hyde and Scarlet Pimpernel, and he's doing Bonnie and Clyde now, so he's very involved. And when you like you said, when you listen to these people and how they put things together and how it just fits and works, it is truly amazing. It really is a gift.
See, some of the most famous songs, you know, he made them. For example, Home Alone, uh, Jurassic Park, Star Wars. Let me see, Harry Potter. That's only like a handful. I just pulled up really fast. I typed his
Yeah,
name in.
yeah, Indiana Jones, all those. Yep,
I can't
amazing.
argue with a guy. He's good. You gotta give him
He's
credit when
great.
it's due. He's fucking good.
Hmm.
And you don't realize who does the music to you actually look into it. Like Jaws, that's another one he has done.
Hmm.
Uh, freaking oh shit! I didn't know he did Superman. Huh, that's a funny one. I'm like, but my point is trying to get he done so much without him in the music. Are we gonna
What's
be
int-
having the same conversation or a different one today?
what's interesting about what you're saying is that you're right. All of those you can actually see the similarities, and you can pinpoint his work. Because without me even knowing him, which I didn't know until you guys introduced him to me just now, um, all of the works that you just described, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Jaws, etc., all have the same type of feel. Now, I was going to bring to your attention, have you ever heard or saw the documentary The Wrecking Crew? Or
Yes,
look
I
at
have.
and so you, as a musician, you understand it's the same way. All of the 60 sounds, TV, and even pop music wise, the Beatles, etc., had a lot to do with this crew, the Wrecking Crew. And you would never realize it up until this documentary. I was like, wow. But not, then when you listen to it after you see the documentary, you can almost pinpoint, oh, that's them. Oh, that's them. Oh, that's them. Don, would you agree?
I'd like to see the documentary, but yeah, I
Oh, I
would tend
thought you
to
said you
agree that
saw it. I thought you
no,
said you saw.
no, no. I said I'm sorry, I didn't, but
Oh, I thought you said I did. The Wrecking Crew. It's a documentary. It's the son of guitarist Tommy Tedesco pays tribute to his father and the core group of studio musicians who played on some of the biggest hits in the 1960s and 70s, including uh, California Girls and Miss Robinson.
oh, okay.
It's incredible. You don't even
Is that?
realize how influential their sound was in the 60s and 70s because it transitions from the music like the Monkees, the Beatles, they all had similar sounds.
Mhm.
And then you go into the movies that and the theme songs of all of those television shows, they came up with all of the opening themes.
Mm.
So when we're speaking about the composer who did all of those very dramatic. If you think about it, Jaws and Star Wars. Star Wars is probably the most infamous. Dun, 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 dun. The horn section and the orchestration in that is just incredible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We got a saber out.
Listen, I don't know if you remember, Dave. I know it's been a couple of years since we've seen each other in person, but I still got my Star Wars tattoo right there, rocking it. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I like when it comes to anything with Star Wars. You drew me in. I did a whole episode about Star Wars versus Star Trek. Cause I was like, I'm gonna do part two soon on that one. But as we're talking about this is one thing that came to my mind. So we talked about artists who we think is the best. We talk about how music comes apart. Albums. What makes a good fucking album? That's a rough one.
Personally,
Yeah, go for it.
I think what makes a good album is the compilation of all of the components being well intended and organized. And I don't think that people do it as much as they used to. An album was like we were just talking about, like the composition in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
You was threading things together, and you was threading storylines, and they had a lot of different overlaps and connections. And it's not even just like they were synonymous or like they were in sync. Sometimes it was just a love was the theme of an album, and so all of the songs had love, and they didn't sound the same. It was just all versions of love. Sometimes it was actually an album like Chronic, for example, album from the start to finish that had skits and everything kind of was compiled and put together and sequenced. That's something that a lot of people don't realize. Sequence is important for an album, in my opinion. That's what made the albums great, because you had a nice sequence of songs to where you didn't want to turn off the album. It kept you intrigued and
Engaged. Yeah.
engaged. Yes, thank you. Go ahead, Don.
Yeah, there's kind of two sides of the answer to this one. Just like you were mentioning, sometimes you have an album that has a central theme to it, and if you get a couple tunes in there that you really like, that's great. It draws you into that one area. But then there's also the albums that are every tune's a little bit different from each other. And if you're fortunate enough to be a musician or an artist that's able to create an album like that and be good at each of those different elements, that's great too. So there's a couple different ways to run with that. One of the artists, that I mentioned before, at least one that I listen to quite often is like Billy Joel, and one of his a couple of his albums, they're very diverse. Each tune doesn't sound like the last one to me, and I think that's very intentional, of course. And uh, again, you get a couple songs that you really like, and maybe some that you don't, but at least he's giving you a full variety to choose from.
I totally agree with it. That's one thing I like. Music, at least I listen to. I try to have a variety of everything. I remember like Bon Jovi when he first started, he was a little heavy metal. Now he's more country. He has evolved his sound over the years, and I kind of like that, to be honest with you guys. So before we get too far ahead with the questions, I got a serious question for you, David. All right, you ready?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Were you at the first of Woodstock?
Say that again.
I know you're a little older than us, but I have to know: were you at the first Woodstock?
Oh no, no, that was a little before me. I was born, but I was still in my single digits then.
I had to throw that out there. I'm like, I know they did a reunion one, like what,
2000 or something like that, 1999 or one of
99, early
those.
to maybe 2000s, something like that.
Yeah.
But hey, Harold was pretty bad actually. I don't even remember, to be honest with you,
I was up at Bethel Woods, New York recently, which is where it was held, but that was for a different concert.
so a lot of therapists now are using music for a therapist session. What do you guys think about that?
again, I think that's wonderful. It's been around for a long time. I know my brother was looking at that as a career at one point back in the 70s, and how you're able to draw out emotions of people who aren't able to show it in other ways. And you could draw out a happy song, a sad song, angry. So again, that really just helps people bring out their emotions.
Sean
Yeah,
King.
I agree. Music can be therapeutic, and as you just described, can definitely stir up and trigger different emotions. And if you want to use it as a skill or as a method of getting to those moments or getting to those emotions or understanding those emotions, why not if it's something that works well for you? So
Hmm.
it really depends on, the therapist. I don't think that becomes their creativity and abilities that they're exercising by including music into their practices. So I don't just think that anybody who's a therapist can just put on music and it works for them. So that also takes a skill and ability. But I definitely embrace it if that's something that works for them.
I agree. So before we move on to too far, let's read some of his comments. So we have Mariana saying, "Record player has a beautiful sound. Yeah, I'm old school. What do you guys think about that?"
I
Uh,
didn't describe.
I'm sorry.
I didn't hear who she was speaking.
She was just having a comment in general. She was saying, record players have a beautiful sound, and she was just speaking in general. She's old school about that. Do you guys agree about
Oh,
record players?
record players. That's what I didn't understand.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. It's a difference between digital, analog, and that's what she's describing, the difference of how it was recorded and
Hmm.
what's coming across. And listening to it on a record player versus a CD is also a unique experience. And, as soon as you put the needle down, you hear the crackling, which is what a lot of people feel is a vintage part of their experience listening to the music.
The
So it
vinyls, in other words.
definitely, yeah, it's an acquired taste because some of the newer artists might be like, "What is that? That's interference." So it really depends on how you savor the moment. Kind of like a wine. Some people would think old wines are too bitter, and some people would think that it's vintage and it's just great for the palate. So depends on how you consume it and how you embrace it.
Hmm.
Yeah, again, a real nice analogy there with the wines. And I grew up with records, and again, we protected them. Sometimes, unfortunately, they get scratched up or the needle would do some damage. But it was a very different experience listening to that versus sometimes almost the stale sound of what it is digitally now.
Hmm. So next comment, she goes off is talking about, and she broke into comments. I think she typed it back. Said, music is therapeutical." Then Cash responds, "Agree, music is always therapeutical." Then he asks a question: "Isn't using AI in music considered cheating? Like there is no real authentic talent by using AI?" What do you guys think about that?
Well, again, I think it's how it's used. If you're fully using it, of course, and just letting it do its thing. But again, if you're using it as a tool in developing the music and helping you develop something maybe quicker or taking you in a direction that you didn't expect, it could be a very good thing. And I think you still have to have that human element no matter what you do with it.
Sean?
I think we discussed it earlier, and the point is that it can be a great thing. It can be a horrible thing. I haven't yet passed judgment on it because I haven't really explored it that well. But to Cash, to your question, the bad part about it is that it compromises the integrity of creativity. Um, the good part about it is that it might be able to take our minds just didn't think of. So it really depends on what comes out of it and how you embrace that final result.
Okay. So and he follows up. He has a couple of them coming in. Especially the one signs in auto tuning. Then he goes and follows up with, "Then ever have an app of these days cannot sign a contract their voice through auto tuning." I think that's more a personal opinion with the apps thing. And he could fly Taylor Swift sucks. Personal opinion again. You either both with it or you don't have it. Music is important, especially background music in a movie. It makes it more entertainment, and I agree with that comment. Like, I know we spoke about it already a little bit. Sean, you want to touch base? And
No,
you,
I was just gonna say, Cash, you might have came in a little late, but we did touch on a lot of the things that you commented on, and you're absolutely right. Music and the movement of music in movies and television and film is underrated often. It's even given some composers that has have done a lot of different things, and people might not remember the movie, but they remember the theme songs. Might not remember the movie, but they remember the feeling. Like especially the composer y'all was just speaking about, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and Star Wars and Jaws. You remember the music. You remember the themes to all of them. Whether
Yeah, a lot
you
of times the music's an actual character of the movie.
absolutely, that's a great way to put it.
Hmm.
and the last part he says is, and apparently to audi-
And appeals
audition.
to the audience.
Yeah. So, in cast defense, I'm reading this later because he already posted as we're talking. These were coming in. I didn't want to interrupt your. Remember you guys talking. That's why I kind of waited like when we had a little break from the questions. Where did I leave off? Okay, this one that is gonna be a little confidential here. Religion. How does music affect religion?
uh,
You know me, Sean. I like dropping little bombs on you guys.
well, what it is, it's the same way we just described it in movies. If you go to any uh, place of worship, the music is like the theme in the backdrop, whether it be or whether it be uh, uh, let me think.
Hallelujah, hallelujah,
Yeah,
hallelujah.
I'm trying to think of a gospel song that we all could easily.
Amazing Grace or
Yeah, Amazing Grace. You know, so you have different themes, and it doesn't always um, happen with words. It's the tone. You know, I've been in uh, different places of worship, and they all felt different. You know, in different, not in the same religion as well as in different religions. So, for
mhm.
example, as a Christian, I've been into Baptist, I've been into Catholic, I've been into, you know, Pentecostal. I've been into a lot of different churches. I've also been into mosque or in you know, cathedrals, you know, depending on what the religion. And they all have a different feel. And a lot of that feeling comes from the music that's being played or that's set. Sometimes it's not even played, it's just kind of, you don't even realize those organs, you know, you don't even realize how significant and how impactful it is.
Yeah,
You
you
could,
could go from a more classical feeling of, as you mentioned, some churches don't even have instruments. You're just using your voice as the instrument, not necessarily even singing a song. It could be something, like a Gregorian chant. Um, there's there's the charismatic movement, which is totally different. It's just like a good old party, and really getting everybody up and out of their seats. And same thing, though, it's always trying to draw on the emotions and get everybody focused into one direction. And no matter how they do it, whether it's with instruments, without, to me, it's always a beautiful thing to see and to be in the middle of it and experience it. My father's family is Russian Orthodox, and when I would go to that church, it I didn't understand any word, but the heavy Russian chorus that was part of that was just something amazing. It almost felt heavenly just being, in there to listen to that, and you get the same kind of feelings from other types of churches, but different ways that they achieve that.
I got agree 100% there. What you're saying there, because I'm Greek Orthodox, so again they're very similar. Just the language is different. They don't
Mhm.
use any interesting. They use their voices. Like a cappella, right? Am I saying it right?
Right, acapella. Yep.
Well,
S- Similar but different at the same time. So it's something. If you haven't experienced this, Sean, I recommend you experience it. It's very beautiful.
what's interesting as I was listening, what I music connects us in a lot of different ways because it's you don't have to. I've been to different countries and they can recite songs better than the language, and they don't understand none of the words,
Right.
but they know every word. I've been to Japan. That's not what I'm referring to, but Japan, Europe, where they will sit there and they will recite all of the lyrics to songs, and then when you say, "Hey, how you doing?" they don't understand a word you're saying. I thought it was amazing how, and of course I'm speaking in hip hop, how it transcended the different uh, um, parts of the world and connected them.
Hmm. My next question, can I bounce off what you're saying? It connects different worlds, but music can trigger memories, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. I
So,
mean, you think of somebody close to you, either in a happy or a sad way, and usually there's some sort of music that it could be on in the car, and you're driving and not thinking about them, and all of a sudden a tune comes on, and bam, it just takes you right back. Um, and again, that could be a sad or a happy way, or just bring back a memory of a certain day or whatever. That's again one of the beautiful transcending moments of music.
And it's interesting, you said it from that standpoint, and I'm going to say it from another standpoint. A, B, C, D, E.
There you are.
That you remember the melody. That's how you remember the alphabet. That's how we remembered a lot of things. We Humpty Dumpty, Jack and Jill. There's so many
if
things
I
that
get
we
so stuck in my head, I'm gonna hunt you in your sleep.
and kept on playing while you're haunting me. But yeah, so it does help you memorize. Like sometimes when I'm trying to memorize a telephone number, I will find myself um, making a melody to it.
Hmm.
4354, 4354, 4354. And that will be how I remember it. 8264354, 8264354. And I'm not realizing that I'm memorizing it through a melody.
Oh, yeah, that's something I never thought about like that, Sean. To be honest with you, and thank you for putting it because like some people have to memorize it like that. Or am I wrong?
No, that's what I'm saying. It's methods that we don't even realize that how music is so influential that we're using methods to help us remember things. And so when you said that, it wasn't that I was thinking of songs that helped me remember different times. I was thinking of different times that I remember because of, or different things that I remember because of the way that I had to learn it. So that repetitiveness is really how we learned a lot of things. But that repetitiveness is usually a melody that we conjured up in our head, or that we actually have a legit melody that helped us remember different things in life.
And that's because yeah, I know. I can't put this. Blind people use music and feel. I might be wrong at this. I'm not an expert on this. You might be a little more than I do. But isn't music a big part of someone's disability too?
I think it could be. To your point, yeah, that's the point that we're making. That music is very influential on a lot of things. We talked therapy earlier, but now we're talking learning. Uh, we spoke about religion. We spoke about creative movies and things of that nature. All of them have a commonality to where they use music or melodies to help it along.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about live performance for a minute versus CD or digital or a record or whatever. I prefer live versus the digital. What do you think?
Um, I agree, but that's why it's a performance,
Mm-hmm.
because that energy comes across. But some people who are masterful had a performance when they were recording it digitally, and so you get that same feeling. And
Yeah.
sometimes when you go to a concert and it's absent, it doesn't feel the same.
Mm-hmm.
They're improvising and doing it live, and it changes some of the cadences, changes some of how you remember the song. That can turn you off at a concert as well.
So let me ask you this question: musical. What do you think about that?
A musical?
Yes.
I love musicals.
Do you? So what about okay? Have you seen any clips of the Back to the Future musical yet?
No, I haven't.
It's actually pretty good. Believe it or not, I saw some clips of it. Is that for a movie that was done back in '85, and they take it and made it into a musical in Broadway? I can credit is due.
And that's an art, and I've seen a lot of movies that they transition into Broadway, Broadway plays, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I just think it's an art, and and if you like that art form, you will enjoy a person who can display that art. Anytime it's on Broadway, usually it's great
Yeah.
because it has to be on a certain scale to get to Broadway. So
Yeah.
once you're on Broadway, you've already reached that measure, and so you usually it's usually a good um, representation of whatever it is that's created.
So, David, let me. I know you dropped off a minute. We're talking about live performance versus records. What's your opinion behind that?
Oh. So live performance versus what did you say? Recordings or?
Records, CDs, stuff like that.
Well, I mean, obviously the record CDs are going to have the advantage of having them cleaned up and having the balanced and
Mm-hmm.
sounding right and produced right. Hopefully, if you have a good producer, um, live performances kind of taking it a little different from you. One of the things that drives me a little crazy personally is when I see people on TV just kind of lip syncing instead of performing. And I'm thinking, okay, these are professionals. You're at the top of your game, and you can't come out and sing a live song in front of an audience. I understand why they don't, but it just that's one of those things that
Irks you.
drives me up the wall. Yes, definitely.
It was well. Who was it? Just a Simpson a few years back, I think it was. Or
Right.
was it her sister? I can remember. She was had something with her voice was
Saturday Night
acting up
Live. Yeah.
and was laughing. And she goes, and she was laughing about it, like, oh, like you just got caught with your pants down, girl. Like not literally, but And we're also talking about Broadway, like Back to the Future and so on. What's your opinion about those?
I love Broadway. Get out there every chance I could get, or even local. They have the regional troops coming through over in Scranton Cultural Center, for instance, or over
Mm-hmm.
Wilkes-Barre and the Kirby. Uh, again, the live stuff that's done and how they're able to make that happen, that's incredible. And to keep up that consistency, night after night, to me, that's fabulous. And to hear the live musicians with it also, and how that all balances, and how they have to basically jump on a truck every other night or so and go to a different city and set it up all again and do it again. It's great. To me, that's wonderful art.
See, I seen some live myself. So the few I've seen, like, okay, the first person I saw live was Treber Orchestra. Have you guys familiar with them?
Oh yeah,
No, I'm
Trans-Siberian. Yeah, the Christmas stuff.
Yeah. So they're pretty much a classic slash rock thing going on with Christmas music, Sean, but they have a story behind it. What I like about them, their performance is so good. It's not even funny, and they do not one but two shows in one night. They pack up, go to the next town. They do the same thing for 6 7 months, I think, right, David?
Yeah, yeah. It usually starts probably about October, November at the latest, and
you know what?
they're
I
on.
think
What's up, Sean?
I said I think I'm familiar. Pardon me, there.
Yeah.
I think I'm talking about.
Yeah. So the second performance I saw was Five Finger Death Punch. Actually, they had a sick show too, believe it or not. So I actually enjoy both of them. So let's get to back to the questions really fast before we get off topic here. Live music and community. How does that influence it?
That's a big thing right now in hip hop. Uh,
It's been like that for a while. I think with hip hop, not lately, but it's always been like that with hip hop.
no, but it's um, more of an issue right now, more of a conversation right now because people are just doing anything to become famous and get rich, and it's showing in it's kind of like let's say professional sports was rigged, and now it's just, and let's just say it always was rigged, but now it's just so blatant that you almost are turned off even if you enjoy looking at the performances. You're like, oh my gosh. And that's kind of how I'm feeling it's going in community, and especially in the hip hop, specifically in hip hop is what I'm speaking to. It needs to change, and it's very influential, it's very impactful, and unfortunately it's going in a direction that is beneficial.
Yeah, on a very different area of community. Again, I deal a lot with high school marching bands, uh, teaching and writing for those and judging them. And it's interesting. Sometimes you'll run across a marching band program that's very involved, very community backed, and you could just see the enthusiasm of the whole school built up because of that. And when you don't have that community involvement, it just falters. And I've seen so many programs that were great at one time just dissipate. One of them, kind of locally for us, is up Montrose, up north of here. Years ago, they had almost every kid in the school in the band, and then little by little it dissipated, and the community involvement, wave went off to the side of that, and unfortunately the program almost collapsed there for a while. But it's community involvement from that standpoint is absolutely necessary. And again, I encourage everybody to always participate in any kind of musical endeavor that you have.
But isn't it
Wow.
like the music program kind of dying out in school slowly because of the budgets?
It depends. Again, certain schools have different issues. Budgets, COVID definitely smacked really bad. Not only the music programs, but everything in the school. It's just taken a while to get everybody back up to speed where they should be. Um, the budgets definitely, they're typically the first things to get cut in schools when they have to cut is the arts, which is unfortunate, but it happens. A friend
It's you, babe.
a friend of mine teaches out in the Midwest, and they wanted to have a very big competitive program out there for the marching band, their concert band, their orchestra. And he went in with a lot of knowledge and told them, hey, it's it's going to cost a lot of money. It's going to, the community got behind them, and the program is just unbelievable out there. The accomplishments that they're getting done out there, and that's in Avon is the name of the school. I believe it's in Indiana. Um, just incredible things that they're accomplishing. And again, if you have the backing, the community administration, parents, that's great.
I think that's the problem with a lot of districts right now. They don't have the backing anymore.
Yeah,
This,
nobody. It's the dedication is really just it's faltered, and everybody wants something done quick rather than working on that quality aspect of it. I shouldn't say everybody, that's too general, but I think that that's part of the issues with it.
generally think.
Yeah, what's interesting about, I didn't look at it from the standpoint that you're speaking from, and that's a very important standpoint in reference to the musical uh, programs that are in the communities and the communities that are partaking in those programs or that are offering those programs. To your point, Pete, there's definitely been a decline in communities and musical programs and cuts that we've heard about directly, some of which have been um, it happened years ago, and so they don't have existing programs. But to listen to what you just said, Dave, I think that those programs are definitely something that I wish can reemerge, and we can start investing to have them in our communities again, because it served a few purposes. It served the purpose of having the importance of music just being played in the communities, which is it brings a vibration and within that community, to that community. And as well, it also gives an opportunity for some of the kids to do something constructive other than some of the other things that might be offered to them via social media, via society in general.
Yeah, and it helps develop a sense of pride and, again, as you said, community involvement. And it's one of those almost sports kind of activities that involves all genders, all ages, all abilities.
I agree because music was everything. Like I know I have obviously met a lot of people over the years, and a lot of them always the biggest subject we always talk about is music. Doesn't matter if you're female, male, black, green, orange, pink, orange, short, long, fat, skinny, whatever. Everybody loves talking about music.
Mhm.
I think it's one. I don't know where I'd be without music, to be honest with you guys. So this next question is more for you, Sean. But David, I want your opinion too. Maybe you know more about it. The business part of it is how the business has evolved and changed over the years with, from marketing, from selling to the lifestyle to the artist for everything.
I mean, that's a broad question. It's changed dramatically, significantly over the years, and it's still changing almost every day. uh, the marketing ability, the marketing tools, the promotion ability, the promotion tools change every day. Um, Again, social media, as I said earlier, being such an impactful platform and a variety of platforms through social media, that you're able to engage with music and you're able to receive music and you're able to sell part of the change. The availability and the ability to market, promote music as abundantly as you are able to now, part of the change. The saturation of how many people want to be involved and want to be artists has changed. The access to being able to do it without having the skill level of the past because of AI, as we was discussing earlier, or digital compromises that propel people being able to do it without the effort necessary to learn an instrument has has changed. So all of these all of these are different variations of how it has changed and how it continues to change. So it's not really something that you can pinpoint as far as the business, but even the business in itself, people learning the business, it actually being a career to be in the business has changed. So, you had people who actually strive because they wanted to be A&Rs, or they wanted to be music executives, or they wanted to have their own label as part of the change that has happened over the years. And now you all have people still interested in making careers out of it, and you even have people who are using uh, their business acumen to be able to make themselves entertainers. Like, you have famous executives because of television shows and because of the exposure they're able to get, where you have people like a Dame Dash, for example, who became a famous record executive. um, and people don't realize that that wasn't something that existed. So that was part of the change. Barry Gordy is another person who was a famous record executive. So we have a lot of things that have changed. We can even go as far as uh, uh, the, I mean, there's so many executives that they're making movies on right now. Uh, that has changed it. Tommy Mottola was we have a Clive Davis. There's a lot of famous um, now executives that is part of the transition and the change. You didn't have those; they was behind the scenes, and now they're in front of the cameras and in front of the scenes, just like their artists.
David, any input on this one?
No, I'm gonna let him sit on that comment. So that's he has much more experience in that areas and from made good points throughout there too. Again, it's always evolving and changing.
Yeah,
Let's talk
how
about.
we.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Sean. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was gonna say how we consume music. I don't know if I said it that way, but how we consume it has changed. you know um
Hmm.
you just mentioned video games. You mentioned the old time one that we were talking about. Right. You mentioned the old time one that we were speaking about, but if you think about it, video games have changed. They have soundtracks, they have theme songs. You have people who literally are famous because of their contributions to certain video games, and their exposure from those video games that have helped them propel and have careers out of that. So that's another change that has happened in how we consume it.
Yeah, because I'll give you a good example. What game is that? Devil May Cry. Okay, for example. Very good game. One of my favorite ones, to be honest, you guys. And they came out. That was supposed to be the last one in the series to say whatever. They came with a song. When they announced it. Devil Trigger is called. That blew up. That song blew up. That made. I feel like that made the game in a way. And if that song wasn't there, would it have been as successful? We don't know. I don't think it would have been anywhere near as successful without the music. What do you guys
No,
think?
definitely not.
You think?
Uh,
What? Go ahead.
yeah, I mean, there's so many things involved in a video game: the visual aspect, the storyline, the action, the music. Definitely, you need the whole package for it to be a
Mm-hmm.
successful endeavor.
Well, in fairness, not entirely, because you now have a portion of the business that they call placements, and those placements propel people's career. Some people look for placements more than they look for um, being on a radio, or being, they're looking for placements in movies, placements on video games, placements in television shows, placements in commercials that help expose their music, which then gets the artist recognition. The artist knows how to use that recognition to turn it into fan base, and use that fan base to turn it into a career.
Okay, what do you think?
Okay, I mean, I see where you're coming from with that. What I was saying was just at the purely video game level, what makes a successful video game it's not just the visual, it's not just the audio, it's not just the story, it's the whole package. That's where I was going from.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I wasn't disputing what you were saying. I was just adding on that some elements, like there's a whole business acumen right now of people wanting to, and people understanding the value of placements and being part of these video games,
Oh,
being
yes.
part
Yes.
of, you know, um, I think they started with the EA Sports stuff and all of the, different games that came out of there. You have what's the Grand Theft Autos is a very impactful,
Oh,
um,
sure.
where they had literal artists in there performing, doing things and voices, and all of this was now a revenue source that was not available years prior. And now people have made themselves rich off of the because those sell billions of dollars worth of,
That's
and
an understatement.
yeah,
Hmm.
you get residuals from those dollars that are being sold. And so you can make more on being part of a video game than having two albums or three albums out.
True, true.
So that's what I was referring to as in reference to, now it has become an actual business, so to speak, and the stake of the commodity is not only recognized through the artists, but it's also recognized through the companies that are soliciting artists, and they understand the value of what they're offering the artists, so they negotiate to be part of the residuals from those deals that are being made.
Yeah. It's always about the business.
I'll give you an example. Call of Duty, one of the most famous games out there. A lot of the snowmobile chase or stuff like that, it wouldn't have been the same without that music. Now I'm gonna add another twist to it. You had like Eminem, for example, who did the "I'm Not Afraid," and it was like the opening trailer song. Now they're using real, good artists to actually, do music, and I just looked the numbers up now. So average a game makes about 5 million, right? It takes about 33 billion to make a game. Obviously whatever. But what the number I was more specifically looking into is how much these artists come home with. It per per. I'm trying to find the right word to say this. I'm just sucking my tongue too. Is per game. They make about $300. Excuse me, 300 per game sold. So technically, the studio is losing money in the day.
Who's losing money?
The studio that makes the game because the game is $60, right? But now the artist wants $300. $300. You don't think so?
Uh, no, no, no. Because that $60 is for one game.
Mm-hmm.
They can sell that same game 100 times. You can mess up your game, and you got to go buy a new one. You-
I'm gonna push back now because the digital games now you can download directly to your console, so you don't have to worry about that anymore.
And you're saying that $300, uh, they're
Per
losing money.
unit they sell.
You think that they're losing money?
And they wouldn't be selling if they're losing money. So there's something wrong with those numbers.
Okay, how accurate is Google? So I'm going off what it says here online. So, like, so take it a grain of salt.
Hmm.
You know how that shit goes. So, but let's say they're not. Let's say lower the number down. Let's say it's more like $30 per unit. Not a
Well,
bad
I
day.
don't think it's per unit, and that maybe that's let's just say it's 300. I just think how we're describing it is not per unit. It's something else. I forget
Formula.
the formula, but it's not. Everybody's getting paid. Put it this way: they don't really care because they're not selling the music; they're selling the units. They per game. Those games one edition of it, the new version that comes out every year, for example, makes billions of dollars, more than any music company is making. Billions of dollars. That's how popular they are.
Hmm. You have a good point there, because games are now they're up more than ever. Like even old games, the stuff that we grew up on, and even older, like Atari stuff like that, they're going for a lot of money. The old stuff, believe it or not, like a couple $100 a piece. Like if you find a closed game, let's say Mario Bros. 3, one of the most popular games for Nintendo, you can make some mint money if it's in perfect condition. If he's beat up, you still can make some decent money because you were paying it what $30 was back in the day when it first released, something like that. It had changed so much. So let's look at collabs for a second. Artists always collab with other ones. Sean, this is more your department. Can you talk? Can you speak on that a little bit?
Repeat the question. I heard the collab. But
Collabs with artists. Let's say Eminem wants to work with 50 Cent. I'm just using names for example. Can you talk about it a little bit because I know you have lived it a little bit.
well, I mean, I think what's happening now, and this is part of why the shift has happened and how it is affecting things. The labels used to be able to control what you can or can't do. And now because artists are getting more leverage because they understand their value and they're exercising it, they are overriding the abilities of the labels. So let's just say label says a cease and desist on a record that they did with another artist, a feature that they did with another artist. Usually that would stick. Nowadays, oh word, you gonna stop the business that I'm doing? I'm gonna cease and desist on promoting my album and tell everybody not to buy it. They understand and have that leverage. So I say all that to say that when artists have synergy, it used to be formulated like people would A&Rs would introduce said artists to said artists and encourage them to collaborate. Now artists meet each other, like each other vibes, and they just go ahead and collaborate, which is a beautiful thing and happen. And we get a lot more creative outcomes of that, and that's what we're dealing with now. We have a lot of different combinations just because they have good reports and relationships with one another. And creatively, I love it. Business wise, probably not as much because you lose the leverage to be able to see. Here's the thing: labels and artists. I usually was the liaison between the two to help them understand each other's position. Now, an artist would feel like he is the deciding factor of what propels the success of the project. Labels feel like they are. And what the reality is that it's a combination of the two. You know, they front load often and used to front load all the time significantly in order to make an artist famous. So that artist now, once he's famous, he starts getting in his own in his head and like, yo, I'm bigger than life, which he is. But if you wouldn't be bigger than life had you not used the resources that help expose you to those audiences. So it's a catch 22. That's why the 360 deals were created because of this concept and this mentality. Because once they get there, they don't need the label anymore. Once they leverage, and if they're not loyal, or if they feel they've been cheated, depending on the circumstance, they will react to that, and it became bad business for everyone. So it's those combinations or collaborations is just showing the awareness of how powerful the artist and the creative is. Because to me, the most valuable thing is the person who can create it.
Hmm.
Yeah, agreed. It's nice to hear that that's actually happening now. So that's a good point.
Well, that's because artists are recognizing how powerful. See, labels' big job back in the days was downplaying that were valuable. Oh, man, if it's not for me, and it's funny. I used to always tell artists when they were coming to the label, they're coming into the label looking for the answers, not realizing that the answers is bringing them in. I mean, the labels are bringing them in to get the answers.
I think social media has changed the game too a lot. Before it was like, okay, you were about a part of a Bad Boy record, for example, or whatever, and you were like, if you go somewhere else, you might lose everything you worked for. But now with social media, don't really need a record label as much. If you really think about it, it helps.
That's the catch 20, because that's what the artists feel. But let me tell you, there is value in labels, just like there's value in talent and creativity. There's no Abbott without Costello. There's no Laurel without Hardy. I know I'm aging ourselves, even though that's but but the point being is that uh, there's a reason for the combinations, because you're good by yourself, but you're a force when you're together. And if you don't value what the other
Brings
entity
it.
is bringing to the table, you have a lot of division, and that's what's happening. Is you have that division, and the artists feel like they don't need the label, but most of these artists will not get to the mainstream or stages that they, as talented as they are. It's still a cosign that, because they, a television or a movie is not going to take a risk on an artist without the co-signing of somebody that they know who did business, who's saying, nah, they're going to be on time. Nah, they're going to live up to the responsibility you need them for.
And that's where I think the changes we're going into now. People are accountable for things too. Correct, Sean?
Hopefully people are maturing and are aware of, the business, but music is one of those, it's
I'm
risky.
gonna push back on that one for maturing because we have a lot of new guys coming into the game now that I think they're hot shit and they like, oh, you're old, you wiped out, move over, old man. No offense, Sean. And and they're punk ass little bitches too coming into it.
Well, what I was getting ready to say is that you're right. They're feeling themselves. They're full of themselves. But um, television and film, for example, two two different worlds. They don't respect musicians. They don't respect music, and so the business that happens between them, some often they overlook music people, because music people are so spoiled and entitled. And let me say it from this standpoint. Let me give you a visual what I mean by that. If you don't show up to the concert doesn't go. So they get used to that mentality and
Mhm.
think you need to wait on it. But when you get in television and film, they're going without you. They're firing you because production is bigger than you. They don't need you for the production. And a lot of musicians found that out the hard way. They're used to the show doesn't go on without them.
Yeah.
And that's an unfortunate mentality, that why people in other businesses don't rely on musicians, and
Mhm.
why they have such a bad reputation, because they're like, yo, I'm not messing up my production. And that's where the labels co-signing comes in handy and is valuable, because they don't look at those people because of those reputations. And then the label comes in and says, no, this person is different. He's very professional. No, they'll be there on time. They understand the magnitude of what's going on. They think it would be a great opportunity for them, and so on, so forth, so forth. And they sell it. And then the opportunity comes up. They kill it, and they think, oh, if it wasn't for me, the show wouldn't have happened. They go back to that mentality, and they're
Mhm.
like, man, that was you don't know how hard we had to work to have them even consider you.
Things have changed so much that we don't know how things are going from now on. Am I right or wrong?
I didn't hear you.
Things have changed so much we don't know what goes on in the background sometimes.
I have that argument. I have that conversation all the time. It's not a change. We never know what goes on. We don't know how much our parents did for us when we was little. We don't know how much our parents' reputation helped us when we're walking down the neighborhood, or our family reputation helped us when we're walking down the neighborhood, and they're like, "Oh no, that's so and so child," and we're just walking frivolously with no. That's similar to a label. You don't know how much they're helping you, because you're getting easy access to a lot of different things, not knowing that they called like, yo, my person is coming. That they're superstars. They introduced it. They're like, yo, you need to know this. They're growing in popularity. Sometimes even lying, just to make you get the opportunity. Oh, they're selling all over. They're the biggest thing in Europe. You just don't know about them here in the States. Lying. Then they get the opportunity in the States, and they hit the ball out the park with the opportunity, and they think that they're the shit. And I'm speaking artists.
Yeah. So let's finish the last question and let's finish our final thoughts. So last question for everybody is how does music transitions to language and breaks barriers through different cultures and backgrounds? David, you want to go first?
Sure, sure. I think, we hit on it in a couple different times here, but, as the religions go, same thing, like I mentioned, a lot of times you go to churches and you can't understand the words perhaps, but you're getting hit with that emotion. Same thing with, just looking at the different things that are out there and available now, Indian music, Mexican music, Latino music, excuse me, and just the whole range of everything just exposes you to new cultures, new ways to interpret, new ways to listen, new ways to enjoy, and music is just a wonderful part of that.
Sean?
I agree. I happen to have managed a Latin artist back in the day, and that's where I learned how much language wasn't as much of a barrier. Culture becomes a barrier, but language wasn't a barrier when it came to music. Um, Culture becomes a barrier because there are different, prejudices and things of that nature that happens that can sometimes interfere. But music sometimes brings those interferences, and move them out of the way. And that language that isn't a barrier anymore because they're connecting through the music. And so I saw it very directly when I was managing the artist that I'm speaking of, and how where we had cultural differences and even interferences, they were wiped away because the music connected us and allowed us to find out what we had in common as opposed to what the differences and what differences we had. And we focus, and that's what music helps us do, is to focus on our common interest and our common liking to the music, as opposed to any differences that we might have had prior to the music connecting us. So I think it's definitely been a great opportunity to make to overlap and have synergy and have camaraderie and have connections that um, otherwise we wouldn't be allowed, or we don't always exercise.
Nice. David, you want to give your final thoughts, and Sean next, and I'll finish up.
I appreciate the opportunity to have this discussion. I thought it went really well and presented a lot of different viewpoints, and hopefully made everybody aware of some different things to think about going ahead. Um, Music connects so many people in so many great ways, and I anticipate that it's always going to. And I just hope everybody, again, just tries to take it all in, all aspects of it, and always take something positive from it. And uh, whenever I'm playing or rehearsing, it's just my time to put the rest of the world on hold and just dive into that and devour it and enjoy it for what it's supposed to do. And appreciate again the chance to talk. I really appreciate it. Thanks again.
Well, Dave, I'll give you another invite. You're always welcome here. Come on anytime you want. I always put the link in the chats. I'll give you daily updates if you like. If you want to come back and just
Would love
chill
to.
with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we do this every Thursday at 9:30. And we have another show on on Saturday. Saturday's more fun on. Like this week, we're talking. Hang on, let me bring my schedule up really fast. Give you an idea because I know you're a little bit newbie to this YouTube stuff with us right now.
Mhm.
So on Saturday, we're talking about reboot rivals. Why are there old fashioned coming to come back? So talking about why, just a little fun. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So again, you're welcome on Saturday. Come down, and the link's always in the chat. I can send it to you. Just let me know if you're
Yeah,
interested.
please do always.
Yeah. Sean, you're up, buddy.
All right. Well, thank you for the conversation as well. It was very inspirational,
Hmm.
very informative. Like some of the things that I shared with you guys that I didn't know that you brought to my attention and taught me. So I really appreciate that, and I'm really glad to be able to share some of my experiences, and hopefully that can be helpful as well. Uh, Business of music. I said it's something earlier that I wish I would have recorded, but it had something to do with when the business came in and compromised the integrity of the creation. And I think that is entirely true. Usually, um, if you're trying to make money on it, more than likely you're going to be looking to follow a trend in this day and age as opposed to creating a trend. And when you are just doing it for the love of it, you create trends. So I would encourage people to do it for the love of it, create a trend, and allow people to follow, and then you'll achieve all of the successes that uh, you know, go out to try and achieve.
Sean, I appreciate you. Like always, again, I'm gonna tell you every week. You're always welcome here, man. Like, hopefully you had a fun like I did. I actually really enjoyed this episode. It was very educational for me, and it was something different too. Um, Music can connect us in so many different ways, from culture to religion to metal to rap, whatever. Music can break boundaries. It can stop wars, in my opinion. It can do a lot of things, but you have to accept other people's music you might not like. Try something once. Like saying, I'm not a big jazz person, but you know what? If someone gives me a CD or or sends me a file or something, like check out the jazz person, like I will still put it on and listen to it. I won't give them the opportunity. You never know. Maybe that one opportunity will might open my eyes, try something different. So accept that, guys. Little schedule update Saturday. Like I mentioned before, we're talking about reboot rivals. We're debating about why are they rebooting? Why the old schools are better than the new school, or vice versa sometimes. Saturday is Q&A on the gray area, and I have not yet figured out what I'm doing next week, so I'm slacking. So obviously, David, I want to thank you for coming. It was a pleasure having you on, my man.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Sean, it's real like always, my man. You know how it is.
Thank you. Yes, Dave, pleasure meeting you, brother.
Yeah,
You
and
too, sir.
yeah, as always,
This is Sparta!
aka Ghost of Sparta. As always, stay safe, stay safe, and I'll see you guys next time.